Tuesday, October 14, 2025, dawned in Washington, D.C., with a grave but electric energy. It was what would have been Charlie Kirk's 32nd birthday. Instead of applause and rallies, news outlets braced for a somber White House ceremony. In a striking move, President Donald Trump had arranged to bestow the nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, posthumously upon Charlie Kirk, and the widow, Erika Kirk, would be on stage to accept it. By midday, the Rose Garden was already beginning to fill. Staff and security bustled amid the freshly trimmed hedges, flags at half-staff fluttered at the entrance, and media crews set up cameras. Conservative leaders, allies from Turning Point USA, members of Congress, and a handful of foreign dignitaries gathered, murmuring among themselves. Many wore red, a symbolic gesture adopted by Kirk's supporters in recent weeks. Some held printed banners, others cell phones live streaming what was to come. At precisely 4 p.m., the formal proceedings began. President Trump entered escorted by aides, and he paused to greet Erika Kirk, who stood just off to the side, composed though visibly emotional. Cameras flashed. As an aide intoned the citation of the medal, outlining Kirk's contributions to civic activism, youth politics, and conservative education efforts, the hush in the garden deepened. Then came the defining moment. The president stepped forward and placed the Medal of Freedom ribbon around the neck of an empty bust, then turned and handed it to Erika. She accepted, hands trembling. Reporters held their breath. Spectators applauded politely, some standing. Trump looked to Erika, his tone shifting from official to personal. Today, on what would have been Charlie's birthday, we honor a warrior for liberty, a voice to the youth, a fearless defender of faith and family. Though he is gone from this earth, his legacy will not die. Erika then moved to the lectern. She cleared her throat, paused, and looked out over the crowd. Her voice cracked at first but soon steadied. "Mr. President, thank you for honoring my husband in such a profound and meaningful way," she said. "Charlie believed that freedom is not a theory, it is a testimony. And though he is no longer with us, his work, his dreams, his fight continue through all of you." She paused again, wiping a tear. She shared a tender and heartbreaking anecdote. Around the breakfast table just days ago, Charlie had joked about how he disliked attention, but would always remind her, God doesn't need a microphone to hear faith. She turned briefly to the empty podium and whispered, "Happy birthday, my Charlie. Happy Freedom Day." Her remarks drew empathy from the audience. Some stood, applauded, others dabbed eyes. In the back, staffers exchanged glances. The moment was heavy but full of political significance. Then, as Trump closed with remarks on the symbolic weight of the medal, he pivoted to a broader theme of national unity and strength. He lauded conservative youth activism, warned about radical leftist forces, and called for renewed vigilance in defending America's ideals. A few lines drew applause, others murmurs. Some in the crowd shifted uncomfortably. Still, the stage had been set. The event was about more than a medal, it was a public statement. After the formal ceremony, a small reception took place inside the East Room. Guest speakers, press handlers, and family gathered. Flashbulbs burst as Erika posed with the medal, flanked by distinguished guests. She allowed a few brief interviews. A local conservative radio host asked if she intended to continue her husband's work. She nodded softly. "I will do what I must." Charlie's mission was never about him. It was about freedom for future generations. "That is my calling now." The mood was solemn but charged. The press corps buzzed with commentary. Some journalists noted that Trump had flown back early from a diplomatic trip to ensure his presence. Others pointed out the seamless alignment of political theater and personal tragedy. Awarding a medal to a slain activist was a powerful narrative device. Behind the scenes, staffers were already working to frame this event into the next chapter of conservative momentum. Turning Point USA insiders circulated memos, leveraged this moment to engage young women, emphasize resilience, expand chapters, mobilize ahead of midterms. Some whispered that this medal ceremony might catalyze a new public role for Erika herself, not just as widow and symbolic figure, but a movement leader. Indeed, the media would soon note that Erika had already been named CEO and board chair of Turning Point USA following her husband's assassination. That appointment was confirmed publicly earlier in September. In that light, the medal ceremony lit a torch in her hands and passed officially the mantle of leadership. But not all reactions were uncritical. Opponents and analysts raised questions. Is it appropriate for a president to grant such a high honor to a political ally, especially one whose rhetoric had been polarizing? Could the medal, traditionally awarded for transcendent contributions, be seen here as partisan? Some liberal commentators called it an act of self-serving symbolism. Others questioned whether the sudden elevation of Kirk's martyrdom would intensify divisions in an already fractured political climate. Still, among conservative circles, the reaction was mostly triumphant. On social media, Freedom Day trended. Supporters posted pictures of the medal, clips of Erika's speech, and tributes to Kirk's life. Local TPUSA chapters held impromptu gatherings. Many described the ceremony as vindication not just for Kirk's legacy but for the movement he led. In the hours after the ceremony, news networks replayed the key lines. Analysts dissected how Trump used the moment to validate his base. Some asked, will this strengthen Erika's public influence? Will new activists emerge under her leadership? Will this medal turn into a new rallying point? By nightfall, D.C. had quieted, but the echo of the event lingered. In Erika's hometown, in TPUSA offices across campuses, in conservative pods and media studios, the narrative would ripple for days. For Erika Kirk, taking that medal in her hands was no mere formality. It was a symbolic passing of fire, a recognition of her husband but also of her own place in the cause. The public watched as widow and movement leader blended in one figure. And in Washington tonight, amid applause and somber tears, they had presented America with a story of sacrifice, honor, faith, and a challenge to carry onward.